Let me blur it. Is
It's
that
going to
better?
come. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it was
Okay.
fine the other way.
Okay.
I
I
feel
have to
like,
leave the door open because the dogs are ridiculous.
oh, it's okay. Animals always come in
Hmm.
during shows for some reason. Well, I know because something's happening with me and the animals. I was walking down the street last night and not one, but two cats. So normally you mostly see dogs out here, but they all lived harmoniously. It's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, you never see any out on this little Mexican town. You never see dogs fighting.
Nope.
You never even hear them. And so I was walking, and it was kind of dark, and I saw this kind of teenage cat in the middle of the sidewalk. And normally, as I'm approaching, because I'm a big guy, they'll kind of get skittish and they'll move away. And but this one looked directly at me, and I thought, oh my God, you can see me, and just sat right there in the sidewalk until I came in right up to it, and then it just kind of moved to the side and looked at me. I thought, yeah, I know I'm not making that up. And then it happened again, like 10 minutes later with a different cat. Same
Yeah.
thing. And I'm like, okay, that's real, that's real.
Did you
Uh,
see the hummingbird?
no, what happened?
So we were in Belize and we're sitting at breakfast, and this hummingbird flies into the lodge and hits a window. And then Danny goes to pick it up and it flipped a shit, right? And it flies behind a door. And I was like, just let me get it. So I get behind there and I'm got it cupped and I'm holding it and I just start giving it energy and it calmed in my hand and I took it outside and I put it on a leaf. And so I just started talking to it. I was like, you're okay. You just got stunned. You thought you were going the right way, but it was a window, right? And I'm like,
Wow,
but you're okay now. And
that's
then he
wild.
just sat there for like 5 minutes staring at us. And I
Hummingbirds
thought,
are hummingbirds are really good signs.
yeah.
Supposedly, yeah.
I mean, the whole story of all of this, it will blow your mind. It is like boom, 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 boom. Like,
You know what? I mean, like that. This is like speaks to what's happening though. Like all of these things are coming in. These used to be like aberrations, but they're not. I remember we were in Morgan and I went to Sedona one time, and we went to lunch with Isabella, Isabel, Isabella something. I can't remember. Sorry, Isabella,
mm,
and Sandra Walter. And so we're sitting outside on this court, in this like outdoor, like overlooking in the afternoon. And you know those scarabs? You know
yeah,
those
the
scarabs?
Beatles.
Yeah, but I'm talking like this big, like
Wow.
like it was a big one, okay? And it was metallic green. This is actually on a video on Facebook. And so it was that big. It was as big as my nose. Well, that thing started flying around and it attached to my nose. While we're sitting there eating lunch, and Sandra had the wherewithal to pull her phone out and video it. But you know what I mean? Like those, like that was an aberration, but it was Sedona and it was like meaningful. And now it's like what I'm getting at is like this hummingbird thing, these cats, like it's
Yeah.
happening every day. It's like
Yeah.
everything is starting to show its connectivity. But yeah, so yeah, let me just make a couple of quick announcements. We're up. If you're watching this on Facebook, it's delayed. It's going to be a replay
Are you
because
recording it?
yes.
Oh,
Am I recording? Yeah, we're live.
oh, really? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
because it's not, okay.
yeah, we're
Now I
live.
see it. It just popped up.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, so we can't do a live until the 27th of the month. So I upload after Facebook, but we are live on YouTube. We are live on X, and I'm trying to work out with TikTok, Instagram, Rumble, Telegram. They're all making me go through these hoops,
Yeah.
and so that's okay because it's really what we put into the field. So this is kind of where we're at. And I think we ruffled some feathers at the end of the year. But I've seen a lot of that with other people too, suppression, censorship, and really, I went back and looked at all the material, all these reels, and there's nothing bad in there. I mean, there's nothing that's volatile or going to create a problem. I think it's just the energy, and I think it's these stories, and I think in particular, it's the stories of the people's awakening and they're expanding awareness and also sharing these things and weaving. So this is kind of what brought this up. Uh, Jenny sent me an email and told me about an experience that she had in Belize. Well, one of many, evidently,
Mhm.
and it was really profound. And I really feel like it's probably better if you kind of set this thing up, and I think the rest will just speak for itself. So I always love when you come on, and I'm really happy to be sitting here with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, I love talking to you. It's just so much fun. So I want to give a little bit of backstory for people who I have been married. Well, I've been together with my husband for 33 years. And, like that includes the dating time too. And we've always had this really great relationship. And then in like 2021, we began the medicine journey together. And he actually started training, whether it was Cambo or psychedelic medicines. We started doing retreats together. And it's wild because while that was awesome, right? It felt like he was, I don't know exactly how to put it. He was becoming more and more like on in my field, in like with what I was doing. Um, what we realized happened was somewhere along the way we were losing ourselves, our own individuality. And I started noticing over the past, I'd say particularly the past 3 months, there was just this friction and it was anger, right? And it would explode. And it was like the instance would be so tiny. And normally we're the type that we could like, you know, I could say something, I could yell at him real quick. He yells back and it's done, right? Like we're not, we don't, we just don't, thank God, because my nervous system could not handle it. But then over the past 3 months, I just kept saying, there's something here we're missing. There's something we're not seeing, and this is deep. And this is, and I kept saying, hun, whether you can see it or not, we're in trouble. But he kept really going, I don't know what's going on with you, but you're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. And I mean, who am I to say? Maybe he was right, right? So, but it was this weird, like volatility. And it was coming from me. And so, and I'm sitting there going, well, maybe it's my shadow coming up, which we all have that happening. But it just felt like I was being torn in two, but I couldn't totally understand it. And so then we had one particularly bad argument. And that was when I said to him, I said, we're in trouble. You can't see it, but we're in trouble. I'm telling you, we're in trouble. And so I went and I took a bath and I am going out and I'm asking spirit, I'm like, I'm missing something here. What is this? And I was shown 74 lives. And we were, every character you could imagine, right? But each time it was like we would be faced with a choice. Do we stay together and one of us shrinks to stay with the other? Or do we leave and do our spiritual expansion? But I was watching in all these different lifetimes where the spiritual expansion was kind of hollow because the person you loved wasn't with you, right? And so it was like, and I'm as they're showing me this, and I'm going, why are you all showing me this? I mean, are you basically telling me I have to choose? And they kept saying to me, in this life, there's a third choice, and you can expand and stay together, right? So, this was right before we left for Belize. And I was like, okay. And so I did tell him, I said, this is what I've learned. And he's like, okay, and I don't think he quite understood the gravity of what I was really saying to him. So we go to Belize and the energies in Belize, holy crap. So we go to the first site, and the first site was Barton Cave, and it's 0 point. right? And it's like once you move past the layer of energy to where there was sacrifices and like that, but you get down to that purity layer, what the original that Mayan grouping used the cave for, it was like I felt my spine shift, I felt things start shifting in my body. And it was like it really felt like 0 point, but like being completely recalibrated, right? And there's every time we've taken a trip and done work, we're never not affected. And usually we're affected, immediately hard. And we've had instances on plenty of sacred journeys to where it's like we've then had serious conversations about our lives, where it's going, what we think we're doing right, what we think we're doing wrong. So with this one, it was like, I don't know, I felt almost like things stripping away. And I had had a dream, and in this dream, it was Lord Maitreya, an ascended master, and he's saying to me, he said, "You've had a year." And he said, "It's time, no more stalling." And I'm going, no, 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 no. Like in this dream, I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not doing this. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And he's like, it's time. And it felt like ripped this humongous veil off of me. And I'm like, now what? And they said, you will begin to really understand. Okay, fine. Well, so in Belize, we started, so in, see if I can back up. So there was this guy at the place we were staying, and he had these three little kids. And I passed by the pool where he was with the kids, and he makes solid eye contact with me. And it was like a bolt of lightning went through my body. And I had no idea what to make of that, right? But I was like, huh, that's wild. Keep going along my way. That night, as we're getting ready to go to bed, Dan says to me, he's like, what's with the dad with the three kids? He's like, you never see the mom. And I said, well, maybe he's giving her a break. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, it just felt weird, right? So immediately I'm kind of going, all right, both of us are like, what is this? Right. So then I spend the entire night in this not quite life review, but more of being shown things of where at different, very much like Mr. Smith in The Matrix, but not to the negative. And it would be, I was shown, I was working at Hopkins at the time in Baltimore, and I had walked into an office, and all of a sudden this person's face switched, and I saw the being behind it. And this was in the dream. This did not, I didn't know anything was going on when I was at Hopkins. And it would be the signal. And then that night, I'd be pulled into a meeting. So I knew the single dad had been the signal. Not that he was necessarily the signal, but he was the vessel. So I'm sitting there and in this dream, and I'm in a meeting, and I couldn't quite gather like what was this meeting about. And I'm asking questions. And then I'm shown this scene of being at Hopkins. Signal comes in. Later on, I am standing at the sink of the home. I get pulled out of the matrix. And I'm in a meeting, and they're talking about how the frequency on Earth, they've been trying to anchor this particular frequency, and they hadn't been able to do it. And so they had devised a plan of it needed to be birthed, like literally through bodies. It had to be birthed onto the Earth. So then it was like, it felt like a group of 30 of us. And so then the question was asked, well, who can do it? Who can bring a child in? And I'm like, fine. Um, and so then, I watched that and I was like, boom, I was put back into my body. I'm standing at the sink making dinner. Dan comes in with our middle daughter, and he had been on the lacrosse field with her. And he comes up and he's like, I was just playing with this 2-year-old and it was so great. He's like, do you want to have another baby? And I just go, yeah, you're muted. I don't know if you know you are. Um, and I saw very clearly how all the big things in life, he's right there, lock, step, and barrel. Whether he was aware of it or not, it doesn't actually matter, right? So it's like he was this in, like, if he hadn't have come home and said, do you want another baby? I don't know that we would have, right? So they showed me instance after instance of where you would get the signal, you'd go to a meeting, choices were made, and they were always choices. And there was one meeting where this one guy, he's just like, I can't. He's like, I'm out. I'm so exhausted. He's like, I will stay as part of the team. I'll support everybody, but I need to do it from here, not there. And then it was like sitting there and going, okay, well, how do you want to leave? And it was looking at all the soul contracts and going, what is the easiest, cleanest, and best, and in everyone else's highest good? And so it was decided he'd have a car accident. And so, like, this whole night, I would wake up and I would clock in what I just saw him receive. And then I felt like I was drugged. And then I'd lay back down and boom, back into it. So I woke up that morning and I'm like, holy crap. Like, but I was not able to pull back. What was the meeting I went into for this time in this moment? So then there's this bird, and it's called a kissimmee. And it's this yellow bird, and it was on this branch by the window, and it is going crazy. It's tapping the window by both of us multiple times. And so I look it up, and it's a threshold bird, and I'm like, there's something here. This is not small. And so, we go to breakfast, and there is a hummingbird that flies into the lodge, goes back, and it hits this window. And it's stunned. And Dan goes up and he's trying to pick it up, and the bird's freaking out. And so then it accidentally it like flies again and gets stuck behind a door. And I go behind the door and I get it and I just cup it and I'm just giving it healing energy and it calms down. And I'm really hoping it's not dead, right? I'm like, oh, because he really could have hurt himself. And so then I carry him out and I set him on a leaf and he's just sitting there. And so I just start talking to him like, it's okay, buddy. You really thought you were going the right way. You thought the mirror was a path. It's not. It's like and it was really weird because it was like you're just being redirected. You're just being redirected. And so I sat there and we're staring at this little hummingbird just sitting there blinking and looking at us. And he had some dust from behind the door on his beak, and Dan was able to take the dust off. And then I was like, okay, we're going to leave you, but you're all right. You're going to be okay. And so just as we turned, he flies off and he buzzes Dan's ear. And then he goes and sits on this little branch right there and starts chirping. And we're like, you're welcome. Glad you're okay, right? But I said to Dan, I said, these are signs. There's something big here. And I was like, and I feel like I've only got a tiny portion of the story. So then we go to another site, and this one again, I mean, it knocked me on my ass. I'm sitting there and I'm in the cave and I'm receiving, and it was the hardest, like fast, like do 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 through my body download. And I'm sitting and I'm rocking. I'm rocking. And it slowed down. I said, okay, is it done? They said, no, not yet. You'll know when it's done. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just hanging on for dear life, right? Not understanding what I'm receiving, but truly trusting. And then all of a sudden stopped, and my entire body just flew forward. Like the top half, because I was in Indian style, it just went, "Phew." And then I was like, it's done now. And they like laughter, it's done. So then I'm like, not sure. We leave the cave, rain hits again. Now, Belize is experiencing unprecedented amounts of rain, and it's cold rain. It's weird. The energy in Belize is different. It the natives, or the locals, we talk about it and they're like, something is wrong. They're very much like something is not okay. The jungle's not acting the same. The coastal areas are not acting the same. There was one guy who said, well, it's time. And I just said, yeah, I know, it's time. So from there, so we leave the cave and it starts pouring. And I mean, pouring. And it is a mile hike back through this path in the jungle, right? And I mean, we're wet and I'm like, and I'm a cat. I don't like rain. I'm always like, why am I always in the rain? It just seems to be the way it is lately. It's like I go in, I do work, and then I'm in the rain. And so, my daughter's always like, well, if you weren't in resistance, and I'm like, it's still rain, I just wouldn't bitch as much. But so then we go to the next spot, which is Rio on pools, right? And it's this beautiful waterfalls over giant smooth rocks. And you can go sit in the little pools or you could go sit under the smaller waterfalls. And so, and I'm sitting there and I'm receiving from there. And then I understood what everything I received was. So the Rio Frio cave has a river going through it and it's big boulders on the side and you can kind of go down, you can climb down to get to the bottom area. And while I was in that cave, I did see a lot of images of women and children hiding in the cave and the cave providing protection. Okay. So there was that. And I thought that's kind of what I was looking at. But then what I realized was the cave was the perfect demonstration of masculine and feminine. And it's the structure, the rocks, right? And then the flow of the feminine. And so then when we went to the same river, it's just where it comes out and goes to this next spot. What they were sharing with me is so many of us on the spiritual journey, star seeds in particular, we really do rebel against rules. Like it's inherent, but in some cases, we're actually rebelling against ourselves. We're rebelling against inner discipline or inner structure, or routine. And it's not routine that somebody else wants to put on you, like a 9 to 5 job, but it's routine within yourself. And so what I realized I was receiving was the true dance between the masculine and feminine. And so that was very interesting. It was just like I could feel things shifting inside my body in such a visceral way. So at the end of that, I was so wiped out. We went back and I slept for like 4 hours. He's waking me up, like, you gonna eat? Um, and it was just like, okay, so then the next day we went out to the water because we had spent half the time in the jungle, half the time in the water. Well, we get to the water and it's beautiful. And then we were supposed to go out to go out to snorkeling. And I had connected with the turtles the last time I was in Belize in 2024. They had taken the codes to the crystal pyramids. So I was like, well, maybe I'm connecting with the turtles again. Well, it turned out to be the rays. It was the stingrays, particularly the eagle rays, because when we got into the water, there was this huge turtle. And I connected with her and she said, oh, no, no, not me. This is my space. I don't travel far. And she was funny. A boat would come and she'd go and, say hello to the boats. Like she was this turtle ambassador. She was just really neat. But then there was these giant rays and some were like on the bottom and they were showing me how these rays are working the ley lines right now. And then I was immediately connected in with the crystal pyramids out in the Caribbean Sea, started receiving that way. And then I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And so I just started opening and I started toning under the water. And then that's when this Caribbean ray, it's like the eagle ray, the spotted that looks like a butterfly in the water, came, right up. And I was like, okay, you're going to take the codes. Um, and so I did that and it was done. And it was another absolutely exhausted because we got onto the boat and it poured. I mean, viciously pouring, just like, what is this? And I heard, have you asked the rain? And so I connected with the rain. I said, what, can you help me understand this? Because when I worked Mary Magdalene's cave in September, on the way back from the cave, it was an onslaught of rain. And so I'm like, this is just seems to be this pattern. And so what I kept hearing was the cleansing has begun. And I'm like, okay. And they said, have you considered that the rain itself holds the codes? And I'm like, well, that makes sense. Water is beyond intelligent, right? And water can move everywhere. So then they said, open to the rain. Give these codes you've been carrying from the different womb gates I've been working all 2025, give it to the rain. And I did. And it was interesting because then I moved into like more of this meditative state. And so then the rain didn't annoy me as much, which was really cool. Because the reason I don't like rain is it like hits me and it activates my nervous system and it just makes me really jangly and I'm just not a fan. Um, but when I did that, it was like I was able to harmonize with the rain, and I'm gonna have to remember that again. So we get back from that and we're exhausted and we wound up going out for dinner. We come back. Well, Danny was acting a little weird, right? He was just, I don't know, he was acting weird. And I was just like, okay. And so then we go to sleep. He went, because normally, we tend to be like two peas in the pod. We do everything together. And so a lot of times, even though I'm a night owl, he's not, it'll be like, well, can we go to bed this time? I'm like, fine. And then I'll go to bed. Um, and he was like, I'm going to bed. And I was like, okay. It wasn't like, are we going to bed? I'm like, okay, just to give you a little bit of space. I don't know what's happening here. But then in the morning, I just said to him, I said, what was that about? And I mean, you want to talk 0 to 60. It was like, I can't even tell you what we were fighting about. Right. And I've got my daughter and her friend with us. So it's like the quiet fight. And which is always just like, as if my daughter couldn't feel the energy anyway. But they kept leaving and going out and playing and because we had gotten on bikes and they would drive down to the beach to where all the chaos was. And we are really just, and I'm going, this is insane. I don't even know why we're fighting. And but it just kept going more and more and more. And oh, there was one other thing. So after doing all the codes and everything, we were supposed to go to this island and get some lunch. Well, as we're getting lunch, I watch him talking to this woman, and instantaneously it just hit me, and I was just like, he's gonna be okay without me. Like he's gonna be okay. He's gonna be miserable, but he's gonna be okay. But then it was like this sadness that came in. And I'm just sitting with that, like, what is that? Whereas, the before with the hummingbird and everything, I had felt humongous positivity of forward steps, whether it was our relationship or life, it didn't actually matter, right? So, I mean, we're talking within a 24, 40, or 48-hour time span, it was like really high. I'm like, this is great. We're all moving forward. I can feel the changes. And down to he's going to be okay without me. And so it was such a shift, and that was part of the reason I was so exhausted after the whole boat trip. And I know I slept, and then we had the argument the next day. And so he says to me, he's like, Jen, for 33 years, I've wondered how I could live without you. And he said, but right now, I don't know if I can live with you. And I was like, oh shit, right? Like, holy crap. And I could feel my nervous system falling apart. I mean, my entire body was just shaking. And, and it's such a crazy thing when you have so much love for somebody. And so he sees this, and next thing you know, he's got his arms wrapped around me, and I'm like just completely falling apart. And I'm going, we need separation. And he's going, really? And I'm like, yeah, I think we need separation. I kept hearing that. I kept hearing it, but not totally understanding it. And so then it threw me back to 2024. At the end of 24, I kept hearing from them that we needed separation. And it was, and it wasn't separation as in living apart necessarily, but it was you go do your thing, I go do my thing, we come together. And we had plenty of opportunities in 2025 to do that. And I kept clinging. I kept going, no, 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 come with me. Right? Like you're my best friend in the whole wide world. Come with me. And we always have fun no matter what we do, right? So it was interesting because I'm like, we could have done this easy. If I had listened, we could have done this easy. I didn't listen. I was clinging. And then at the same time, they showed me really, really clearly that I was spread between the timeline of having to walk away from him to continue my expansion also spread between the timeline of shrinking. And I could see, even things we had done, whether it was a retreat or a program we did, I was choosing things based on his ability, not mine, because I wanted him to keep up with me. And I literally, it like dawned on me. And I looked at him and I said, you could take me to Home Depot and we could do one of those little crafty things and maybe I can do a birdhouse. And I was like, but I can't build a gazebo. And I said, and if I did build a gazebo, you do not want to stand under it. And I'm like, these are your gifts. He's never expected me to have his gifts. So then it was like, where did I get it twisted? Where did I go? You need to be equal, frequency wise, understanding wise, or anything, right? And that was this humongous epiphany. And I would never have said to you that I got wrapped up in the twin flame stuff. I never would have said that to you before. But I think that's exactly what it was. I think it was disastrous programming that came in when we started doing medicine work together. And it was, we have to be same page, equal. But what that does is it creates a melding where we're both not our full and individual self. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. This all makes sense. But yes,
Like,
absolutely. Because the reality is, and I can only speak from my own experience, but listening to you, it I totally get it. I got tears coming out of my eyes. Not because I'm sad, but because
yeah.
it's the truth. Um, to me, on the outside looking in, and just based on my own personal experience, not speaking for anyone else, you were both doing the same thing.
Mhm.
He was accommodating, you were accommodating, and I agree with not just the twin flame psyops. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm
Mhm.
saying that we're in a realm of distortion that just came through a conclusion. That's why this story I think is so important, and the codes it carries that came in through the last week of the year and the first week of the new year, but also programs of ascension,
Yeah.
programs of galactic,
Yeah.
or whatever. Pick whatever you want to pick.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't realize the magnitude of your story. I only got the high points, and you wrote me a pretty long email.
Yeah.
And so I want to go back to the basis of the email. Now, there's a lot of code in your story, and I'd love to jump into all of it if you have time.
Oh yeah,
but
I'm good.
but going back to the email, there were two known options. You say going into it, there's two known options through this incarnation, past incarnations, and that was either you stay and you kind of shrink, or you accommodate, however from your perspective, or you go ahead alone. The truth is, either one is the road to soul expansion.
Either one.
Either one is but we don't know that at the time because
Mhm.
we're in the incarnation and we have all the different challenges and energies and even distortions in this particular incarnation that are presented to us for the very same ultimate purpose, which is to give us the friction and the catalytic energy to grow from. So the third one comes in this transmission that you have. And the third one is, oh, there is a third one. And you can grab each other's hands and you can say, we're going to do this together.
Mhm.
And that's a different thing than accommodating. That's a choice in saying, I have faith in my heart, particularly in this incarnation or series of incarnations, because we've come to realize that there's some kind of connection between our unified emotions and our sacred sexuality.
Mhm.
So I would argue that every one of us contained sacred union, sacred marriage, balanced masculine and feminine, trinity energy when we walked in the door of
Yeah.
this incarnation. regardless of the ancestral lineage traumas and all that that needed to be worked out. This was the core. This is the true foundation grid. You know, people are talking about let's bring the original blueprint. It's already there. These are all overlays on
It's just
top of it.
uncovering it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I've come to the point in the last, I don't know how long it's been, at least a couple of years, probably longer, that our goal here is to, because it's such a challenging obstacle course like we've never seen, it would only make sense to me that the most powerful element to neutralize and transform the existing realm and clear the distortion would be through that particular foundation. But why would we do that if we have that already? And so to me, because of the physicality and the density, we've come to do it with a physical mirror. And that's not just, oh, we're twin flames. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at myself. When I look at her, I'm looking at my feminine.
Yeah.
Now that becomes, and it works both ways, that becomes, that's now subjected to all of the bullshit and the fuckery and the ancestral lineage and the human frailties and the insecurities and the intuition and the imagination, both for and against, the loops that run in our head. Oh, she's thinking this and he's thinking that, and this is the way it is. And I love your story and the way you wound it up, because you said, where did I get this twisted? Because in that moment you realize, wait, this is my perception.
Yeah.
This is my control mechanism. This is my insecurity coming to the surface to make sure I understand everything and all the pieces are in the proper place so I can walk down the promenade, right? When in reality, it's a two-way street. So I've always said that you cannot find, we're wasting our fucking time. If we think we're going to blink our eyes and we're all going to be unified in the field, let's say there's 100 people in the field, even if they're monad, right? Like in the physical, hey, you've got to do it with one other first. Because if you can't do it with one, you can't do it with two, you can't do it with 10. So it would make sense to me that the secret weapon, so to speak, would be these couples that have a long, long lineage, that have the ability to tap into their self in the physical mirror, okay, and override the system.
Yeah.
But if, people have asked me over the years, because people think, I don't know how deep we're going to go here, but I'm right with you. And what I'm saying is that people will look at, like I look at you, the two of you, even after what you've told me today. And I saw something I've seen a lot over the years on the show. And that would be a strong, powerful, sensitive woman come on the show, which is 80, 90%, right? Do you have a partner? Yes. What's he like? Is he awake? Well, he is, but he doesn't know. Or he lets me do whatever I need to do, period. And I'm going, whoa. Like, because I see much more of a contrast. You know what I mean? Like in the connection that I've been in for 10 years, it's obvious we both have a high frequency. They don't, because you got the male female thing going, the masculine feminine thing going. So you got the programming. So you don't always, but it's there.
Yeah.
And with y'all's, I see the same thing, but I also see a huge contrast, which is by his own admission, what he said to you and what your thoughts were. But still, I still see this like always coming back thing. And so I think that speaks to the third choice is there's nothing to lose here. And I will say this too, as time has gone on, regardless of the choices made, whether they're understood or not by one or both parties, and usually it's not understood by either one of them, you realize that you can't detach. It's not clinging. It's not fixation. It's not a program. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't compute in this literal linear experience from the human's old paradigm set of eyes, right?
Mhm.
So and, Alicia Brochet and I, I know y'all have worked together too. Y'all are tight, and we've talked about it.
Yeah.
These relationships are, imagine all of us, like in your story, when you had the things happen to you and you lost everything and you moved, and
Mhm.
so on one hand you're having these successive traumas, and on the other hand you have this bolt of lightning coming in, you're catching in your hand at the same, oh, we're moving to Colorado. What? Yeah, where we're going, you know, come hell or high water, and so things happen. So you have this dual thing happening, this dying and birthing at the same time. But what I would say is that if anybody wants to know what these things are like, at least from my own perspective, imagine your own dark nights of the soul, your own successive traumas, your own trials and errors. Now imagine doing that with somebody else, with with fucking interfering energies, which really ramped up, by the way, as the year came to an end.
They
Uh,
sure did.
Right, and you've got that to contend with. You've got your programming, you've got your ancestral, you've got all the basic stuff that you have as an individual. But now you've got to try to work it out with somebody else, and there's no rationale because the rationale doesn't work anymore. So you're being forced to go into the heart. Less is said, more is known, and
Mhm.
and you can't even give it a play-by-play because it's moving so fast. You
Right.
know.
Right.
So I think where I would sum it up is that I feel like this is a really good example. It's a great example because, again, if we look at it metaphorically, we're looking at masculine, feminine, which is really within all of us. Which, yes, we came into this with all of this, but we also came into this, and then we gained from it the series of experiences and incarnations that we've had, and that's not for nothing. So, in other words, there's code in that experience that combined with what we came in with will create a greater trinity, a greater sacred union within yourself, and therefore it carries out to those around you. But I really feel like that, long time ago, um, and I mean, I'm going back 10 years ago, right? Like within 2 months or 3 months of her and I meeting, you know, something would happen. And I just want to say something to that would be the last thing I say about these incidents, okay, of friction or conflict. But anyway, about 10 years ago, she said to me, well, sometimes it's you, sometimes it's me, and sometimes it's the energy. Now, as time has gone on, it's become more and more obvious to me that it's always the fucking energy. It actually is the energy. So if I go back to what you were saying about what happened with this 48-hour period, you know, we had a really powerful reconnection in September, which was the end of our ninth year and the beginning of a 10th year. But we hadn't been speaking for about 3 months, right? And very convoluted. That was a very powerful summer. It was burn, baby, burn. And so you reconnect in a bigger way. And a few days later, the fireworks go off, right? And you come back. And then a month goes by in the middle of October and the fireworks go off, you know. And the first time it's 5 days timeout. The next time it's 4 days. None of this is planned or orchestrated or strategized. None of this is. And then November comes with the fucking 11/11, and that shit just went through the roof. And again, it always seems to be this powerful reconnect and expansion of both the individual and the couple, which is paralleling the collective. And then right after that, it goes, pew.
Mhm.
Well, it's not you, it's not me, it's the fucking energy. And the souls are starting to be able to navigate it because the judgment is lessening, the projection is lessening, the self
Mhm.
accountability and self responsibility is there.
It's
And then,
rising.
right? And so we get into December, which was a real big month for me because my birthday was the 9th. We came out of November and it was about a 3 or 4 day, like integration. And then the stuff started happening. And so my birthday came and that was huge. And then like the 10, 11, 12. all these twos and ones came. And then that corridor leading up to the Atlas, the new moon, and the fucking solstice. And
Yeah.
then 3 or 4 days of integration, massive in my body. It was a very, and I wanted to ask you about this, a very masculine thing, which I've resisted at times because I used to get tired of that conversation. It used to drive me crazy because of the distinction made between the two when we're actually the same.
Right.
But anyway, so I accepted it. Got my ass kicked quite a bit. I purged a lot. And then around the 26th, I heard, you're going to go through 3 days of darkness. You're going to do it on the 29th, 30th, and 31st.
Whew, that was my darkness.
Okay, this is what I was going to ask you. At the same time, Gareth Jenkins. You know
I
Gareth.
don't.
Okay, well, do you know who he is? He does a show every Tuesday. He
No,
does
I
a
don't. I
he
saw
does a
your post though, and
yeah.
I
So
really
he
resonated.
is extremely tapped in. I'd put him on the same level as Franco, just in a different kind of part of the library. In fact, while he was in the hospital, I had a dimensional experience with him and Franco, which is real interesting. And him and I are going to do a show in a couple of days, and I'll talk about it. But my point is this: his broadcast partner, Katie Kiss, sends me a message and tells me that they've put Gareth into an induced coma because he's having grand mal seizures nonstop, which I had probably close to 200 in my life. So I understand that
Yeah.
very much, not just from a physical standpoint, but from when I've tapped in and gotten information, whatever. I don't fully understand it all, but I knew it was linked. I knew it was important, and I knew I was linked to him. So I immediately came in and I said, "Oh," and I was just like, I read it and I said, like pass the butter. I was like, Katie, he's going to go through 3 days. He's going to come out of it on the third day. He's doing the work right up to the last day of the year, which is what I was told. Okay.
Hmm.
So the reason I bring that up is because it seems to be basically following the same timeline that you guys had pre-Belize, and then I think some of these dynamics were involved in what you guys were anchoring, especially given not only where you were, but the different sites that you went to, and having the recollection and connecting the dots back to France and other, when the
Yeah.
rain came and so on. But so I think it's a lot of this information that's been coming in. I'm going to have to say for the last 4 months, like since September came, right?
Hmm.
It's one of two things. It's moving so fast, you literally don't have time to think about it because you're being put into such a present state of mind. There's room for nothing else, and you don't have time because another one's coming, kind of thing. Or it's so much that you're getting bits and pieces. And it's not like the old days where we can go, okay, this is what happened, this is what it means. No, that's all kind of going away. And it's what you were talking about at the end about the stripping down, the shedding that you were talking about, and I think that's what it is. I think when you got that message and they said to you, it's time, and you said, no, 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 let me wait a little bit longer. No, no, you're not going to wait longer, and you just get blasted, like with a fire hose, and you're more naked. You can see the others more naked. The other can see you more naked, and there's really nothing to say or prove or do or be. And it's certainly not based on what we've thought we knew coming into this, even as recent as a week ago, right?
Yeah.
So, but I feel like that. The last thing I'll say is I feel like that our good friend who's pretty tapped in, Hung, uh, she's pretty tapped in, and she took a liking to us years ago. We were in Kauai. We get a phone call. Hey, now this is a person with 100 friends on Facebook, literally, like 95 friends, right? And I know you guys. I'm here. Come on over. I'll buy you a drink. So we go and meet her. And then a few months later, we're up in Washington State on this organic farm in the middle of freaking nowhere. It's like 50 acres or something. And what happens? We get a call from her. She lives in Vancouver, Canada. She comes across the border, goes 4 or 5 hours, finds us. We hang out, and so we've had this thing. So she taps in and she says, and I think this speaks to a lot of couples, I want to say, to this time, to what it takes, to what I mentioned earlier about what has the highest potential to neutralize and transform the existing dualistic polarity that we found ourselves in. And she would say, you guys are cosmic cheaters. You're not supposed to, it's not normal protocol for two like that. I'm not going to call them twins. I'm just going to say two that carry those codes that have done this numerous times. And let me just add, we went through the same thing. You know, we had a 45-minute thing in 2018 on the bed in the middle of the night, kneeling, facing each other, and we basically shapeshifted for 45 minutes, showing not only on planet
But off planet.
partnerships, off planet, off universe.
Yep.
Some of these were very unattractive. One of them had two heads. I mean, just but and we both have seen the unification literally every timeline and dimension.
Yeah.
Okay. But we're trying to like, well, why isn't it here? You know, why is there always this, you know, and again, it's you, it's me, or it's the energy. And I believe so much of this is the energy that has gone in and inverted things, basically. And
Hmm.
where else to go but to the core of the strongest thread of the mother, which would be that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So so she says, you guys are cosmic cheaters. You're not normally going to have an incarnation, but you find a way to do it. So it's almost like here's the rules. You can kind of bend the rules to even expand reality more, but it's kind of against the rules to do it. But the universe kind of looks the other way. If you're successful, you're a hero. And if you're not, you're just going to pay the price, which you're used to after all this time.
Right.
But so I kind of look at it that way. I think it takes, it still remains to be seen what these energies can do. You know, like Alicia said, there's no way you can explain or understand these couples by the conventional narrative or the conventional
Yeah.
perception. And I will tell you, come this past summer, June 1st, we had a very powerful thing. And I want to say, in terms of not trying to validate what you were saying, but maybe give you a little bit of solace. We've experienced this. We've not understood it at the big, you know, when it comes in, but we both, in retrospect, said, "Hey, this was coming in, and that was it's time to separate right now."
Mhm.
Okay, so and somebody actually wrote something about this a couple, 2, 3 weeks ago. I remember they talked about the importance of separation in these particular scenarios, right? And again, it doesn't have to necessarily be geographical. It could be, you
Yeah.
know, you got to remember too that both of them have other things that they're doing, right? So there's other things that we're all involved in. But anyway, so that part of it, I think, is what I was going to say is we've experienced that, and in retrospect, we both acknowledge, hey, we saw it coming. We just didn't, you know, because you're in the human thing, and like you said, it makes sense. We're supposed to go do everything together. Well, no, you are together, okay?
We are
You are
together.
together. You are like that's
Yeah.
that's the code that you carry, you know. And I just said this to her 3 or 4 days ago. And I was like, you know, this is the greatest place I've ever lived. Now, I'd love to have you all soft and next to me. I could be squeezing you, whatever, but I already have you. We are together. You know what I mean? And in this physical reality, I just happen to be here right now in this beautiful little authentic town a block from the beach. And none of it made sense, but none of this makes sense anyway. But anyway, so, you know, I feel like that there is a lot to be learned. And I'm talking about couple, these, whatever we call them, that we don't know yet. And it's going to require, just like our personal journey and evolution, that we relinquish every single belief. Because, look, I can tell you, her and I have given each other up 1,000 times. I can't tell you how many times we've been in a session. They said, are you guys want to go to the next level? Are you willing to let go of the other one? And we're like, yes. You know, and so, and then we've had more that were harsher than that. And, you know, so the final thing I would say is when this started, this next phase happened, or the summer phase happened, it was very prolific, a lot like the hummingbird thing it was so intricate. I'm not going to go into it all, but I realized at that point, especially because we had been so public, right? So you're inviting shitloads of energy at you, right? And thoughts are things,
They
okay?
are.
And they're not all happy with you,
No, I mean,
because you know what I mean? Because
it,
you trigger people. You're going to trigger people as an individual. You're going to trigger people as a couple. But my point is, I made a point. We made a point at that time that we are going to pull in, pull everything in, and whatever connection we have, we're going to keep it to ourselves. Period. Period. You know, and and uh, and I feel like in some way this also reflected the individual journeys that we had toward the second half of this year. All of us, which was to prepare us for this next year, be it February 17th, be it the equinox, whatever that date is, probably somewhere in March, April, whatever, that we were being prepared. And like you guys, it took me to the last 3 days. It took Garrett to the last 3 days. You know what I mean? So this was some serious stuff going on. So I just want to applaud you both for, and I realize you're here speaking about it, and Dan's not, but I also know Dan's here. And I just want to applaud you both for having the balls and the ovaries to come out and talk about this stuff, because I think it needs to be talked about, because the only, well, virtually the only way it's been talked about up to this point has been the fluffy love and light and the how to. And the how to's don't even know what the fuck they're talking about, because three-quarters of them, I couldn't tell you how to. And I've been in what I think is a pretty strong connection for 10 years. You've been doing it for 33 years. And then the other part being the fluffy love and light. Look at us with our smiles and kisses and holding hands, and the persona that's put out there, which beneath it, I promise you doesn't match.
right,
I promise you it
right.
doesn't. So I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you for letting me express all this. And I didn't know where it
Yeah.
was going to go. But thanks very much.
I because you brought up well, a couple of things. I had to make notes because I was like, oh yeah. I've noticed that throughout our marriage, we get a lot of envy, a lot of envy. And I don't think that people realize, one, thoughts are things. You're literally throwing at us this shit energy. But when I say we've been through hell and back together, we've been through hell and back. We've stripped each other bare and built each other back up. This is not a fairy tale. It's real. And we've just constantly keep coming back to each other and coming back to each other. And while we're not people that really fight, when we do, we do, it doesn't mean that there has not been major things in our lives. And so I always look at that envy energy where people are like, "Oh, I'm so jealous of you guys." Please don't be. Please create it in your own life. Don't throw that at me. Don't throw the expectations or the pedestal. Don't put our relationship on a pedestal, because you better be prepared to sling through some mud, right? If you want this. And it is good. I mean, her relationship is good. So I actually, and what you had mentioned, like the energies coming in that were creating a lot of problems towards the end of the year. I reached out to a girlfriend that I studied shamanism with, and I just like, I'm not in a good place. I'm in a dark spot. Can you help me? I need you to check my energy. And she comes back, she goes, "You're completely clear, like very clear." She said, "But what's going on? Because your nervous system feels like it's firing everywhere." And so I tell her what's going on. She goes, "I just keep hearing separation. You need to separate. You need to separate." So I tell Dan, and I'm like, "This is what," and he is not a happy camper, right? I mean, he's like, "I come on vacation and I'm going to go home and my marriage is on the rocks." He's like, "How does this even happen?" And I having the friend talked separation with me, like really about like maybe you just need to get your own little place or this or that, really clarified so much for me of I don't want that, like at all. And so I said to Danny, I said, it helped. I don't want the path of separation from him if I can help it. I don't want the path of shrinking. And I really could see so clearly my anger that would erupt was because I wasn't choosing me. I was choosing to shrink again, right? And everything in me is pushing open, open, expand, expand. And here I am going, yes, but not in this area, but this area is me. So we basically stayed up all night talking. We got a couple hours sleep and then we woke up and I mean, immediately both of us are just crying, right? We're raw. And then he looks at me and goes, do you want to go snorkeling? And I said, yeah. I mean, sun had just come up. And so we go out snorkeling and he's grabbing my hand and we're just going to this particular spot. It's a good mile swim. And this eagle ray, and this is like shallow, maybe 5 feet tops. Okay. There's not a lot of reef. It was more of the swim. And yeah, you might see a little barracuda or something like that, but this is not an active area that we were really staying in. And here comes this eagle ray. And I remember I had done the codes with the eagle ray when I had worked the crystal pyramids, right? And with and I've also been really heavily working with the crystal skulls. So this eagle ray didn't have a tail, no tail at all. And it's just swimming. And I point to it and he's like, and we both stand up. And I was like, oh my God. I said, do you realize? I was like, we eviscerated each other yesterday. We're raw. We're completely exposed. And I was like, we no longer have a tail. We no longer have our weapons. And I was like, and look how beautiful we still are swimming. And he is just like, oh my God. I mean, it was the most incredible sign, the most incredible sign. And so it really, I- it, this man, he shifted so fast. He went from absolute and complete anger, frustration at me, hopelessness, to both of us looking at each other and going, we don't know who we are without each other. I mean, seriously, I was 17 when I met this man, right? And all of a sudden, this excitement came in of, let's go explore ourselves, whatever that means, right? Like, whatever that looks like, and bring that back to the marriage. Because I had said to him, there was a point in time he was listening to a ton of podcasts at work. But he was working alone all the time. And so he was constantly listening to things. He'd come home. Sometimes he'd be like, you have to hear this. Or he would explain to me his view of it. And there was like this excitement, right? It's like he's learning, but so was I. And then I was doing my thing and I'd share it with him. And somewhere along the way, we lost that. And it was like we were too intertwined, right? And so it was becoming almost nauseatingly putting you to sleep, right? To where you really, instead of going, wait a minute, I can go learn this and I can share it, and you can go learn this and I can share it, and we can both grow. So since all of that crazy, all I can say for you is I have hope. I, it's like this excitement. And I realized where I was so just stuck. I was so mad at myself for going back into the old patternings of shrinking instead of allowing myself to expand and trusting this man that he's got me. Because in truth, he does. And it's the understanding of like, he's like, go do you, go fly. I've got this. I've got this foundation. And he's like, he's like, as if it's like a string. It's like, go as high as you can possibly go. And me where I'm at being the foundation, it's not going to be a mismatch because it can't be. So then there was another night of dreams, and it was seeing that it was weird. I kept seeing it as this column in us, and I don't necessarily mean the prana column, but maybe. And my column and his column will always find each other. And I was shown different worlds. It was like, it didn't matter. Like we could be two dogs running around Mexico. We're going to find each other. It just is. There's this magnetism within us, and we will always find each other. And so, Spirit just kept saying to me, this is doable. This is completely doable. It's just going to take a lot of communication, a lot of trust, a lot of love, and the refusal of either one of you to shrink again. Because I mean, there was things like he used to go off mountain biking and snowboarding all the time. He stopped. So it was like all of a sudden we melded it, and we would joke and we would make a comment and be like, yeah, we only have one brain. But we're not meant to only have one brain. We're meant to be these incredible individuals. Instead of like this constant intertwining, we're pillars. And to be those pillars. So then after they showed me this, that there's this column, like you guys will always find each other as long as you don't let the ego or the anger or the stories, the bullshit you can create in your mind keep you apart. And then I had this dream, and I was like, I felt like I was kind of in a cave, actually. I don't know what it is with me and caves and womb work, but here we are. And there was the 13 crystal skulls, right? And they were glowing, and there was this opening. And I was like, hmm. And I looked at him in this dream and I said, are you ready? And he's like, I'm ready. And we literally, in the dream, both jumped through. And I said to Danny, I was like, we literally waited till the 11th hour and 59 minute. I'm like, when I look at a year ago when they were saying to me, you need some separation, and I didn't listen, I made things difficult, right? It had to become volatile. It had to become to the point to where it's like, I can't, we can't do this. This isn't going to work anymore. In order for us to look at it and go, oh. And I mean, we had little things like our first ever mice infestation, right? Mice is saying, there's something here. You're leaving crumbs, something you're not looking at. And we're like thinking it's so many different things, but what it really was where was I still stuck in the either or? Either I shrink or I leave. I couldn't see that third path. Um, and it's been really interesting because you would think after this massive, I mean, massive thing that we went through. I mean, we literally eviscerated each other. You would think it would still be tender and raw, and it's not. It's not, I would say it's still tender, but there's like this newness. That's what I would say is happening with us right now, is there's a newness, and there's this excitement of what can we get into now? Right? Like, what are we going to bring to us? Because his version of the world is different than mine, and mine is different than his. And so, what can we bring in to help the growth of each other? But you know what? So funny. Oh my gosh. I actually thought it was about something else. And now I realize it's not. Christmas night into the 26th, I had this dream. He and I are driving up a mountain, and it's foggy. It's so, so foggy. And all of a sudden it clears, and I realize we're getting ready to drive off this mountain. And there's no time to brake, right? Like you either knew you were going to brake, but the car was going to go over and then do its tumble. And I just looked at him, I said, just fucking floor it. Just floor it. And he looks at me, goes, okay. And he guns it, and we're off, right? And so I just said, sorry, kids, you guys are going to be orphans, right? He grabs my hands and he's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, It's all good. We're going to go together. It's fine. We land in this beautiful, I mean, and we're falling for a while. We land in this beautiful green sheep pasture, right? And I'm like, get out of the car. Something's got to go wrong, right? Like it's going to blow, something. Nothing wrong with the car. The car was the old car. It was a Chrysler K
Oh
from
my
back in the
God.
day. That's what I had when we were dating.
Oh my God.
And so we scramble out of the car and we're sitting there and I'm like, and somebody comes up and I'm just crying and just like, holy cow. And she said, your sister's here. Let me get your sister. And so my sister comes up and she goes, you were up there? And I said, yeah. And she goes, and you drove off? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, and you're here now? I said, uh-huh. She goes, how? And I said, divine intervention. And I woke up. And at the time, I thought it's because I've got, people moving in and out of my life, and I can feel that shifting as all of us do right now, right? So at the time, I thought it was about that, but now I'm like thinking about the Chrysler K. That was the relationship, that was the car we had when that relationship was new, right? When it was just very fresh and brand new. And that's the energies that are here now. It's like, and not that I think it's done. I think we're still going to have times where I could fall back into an old patterning. He could fall back into an old patterning. Or I can really start to expand and he could get a little insecure or vice versa, right? I don't think it's done, but I think we made our choice at the 11th hour. And the choice is we're going to do this together without destroying each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because all the streams that would feed the destruction come from the realm.
Mhm.
They're not even fucking real. they're the you know they're the whetstone that we could hone our souls and make them sharper and shinier. You know what I mean? And see, I think that's another thing about these. And look, we can talk about the narratives all we want, and I'm talking about the moon. I'm talking about the location of the moon within the realm, understanding that the mother's behind it all and there's nothing to worry about. There's a net to fall in, there always is.
Yeah.
But in terms of the way this thing has ended up, very much an 11th hour, if you look back at the last 12,000 years. The moon comes over, and what happens? We all know this is we call this a patriarchal, which to me has gotten over associated with the masculine. Okay,
Right, right.
but
I
my
agree.
point is, we know that the distortion, the only way you could distort, or the best way, would be to go to the root of reality, which is the mother, right? So the moon obviously has four phases, and it has the influence it has had, because it's all being neutralized and transformed
Mhm.
on the waters. You talked about the water. The water to me is the mother. That's it. Period.
Mhm.
It's everywhere and everything, when you can see it, when you can't see it. And so, and what is she? Well, that's reflected in her cycle, right?
Yeah.
So these are the things that we're bringing to alignment. I'm going to say this is the range that it comes from. So whatever happened to her, as he is what he is to her, that part of us that we call him, it's just as distorted. So they're coming from two ends of the spectrum, and you can't see. I can't explain to you. You've done it. You've tried it. I've tried it. She's tried it. He's tried it. It doesn't work. And I love what you say about the becoming the one brain. What is that? What is this thing where I have to accommodate those things that slightly hurt my soul and don't feel right, and yet it's happening to the other person at the same time?
Yes.
And yet you can't even explain it because we're in the projection, we're in the externalization. And here's the crazy thing: you make these concessions. and you associate it with the other person's needs, when the reality is it's your fucking choice.
Totally,
Okay.
100%.
So then you realize that, wait a minute, I can't blame the other person for these concessions that I'm making because they're
Yes,
really just excuses because I don't have the balls to do what I'm trying to do right now. Rebuild, rebuild,
absolutely.
rebuild. You know what I mean? So, and I think what's happening too, as much as the combustible moments occur. Okay. And if I look back at September, October, November, December, 4 times, once every month, near the middle of the month. And if I look back prior to that, it was actually something you could see over the years. Didn't
Exactly.
happen all this.
That
You know what I
is
mean? You know what I mean? So it's
dead
like
on.
it's involved in that cycle that we're transforming, that I'm just putting in the physical properties with the moon and all those the associations I made with it. But my point is you realize 2 things. One, you realize, because if I look at September, October, November, December, like I said, the time or the separation element or whatever you want to call it, shorten, shorten, shorten. And I kept saying early in the year, I feel like, because I don't have like I'm not able to articulate the way that she does or you do or a lot of the sisters do, this verbatim coding, but I do get these flashes. And it was, we're going to be talking less and there's going to not be a need to say certain things because they're going to be understood at a higher level. And slowly I've watched that happen. And
Mhm.
so there's a subtlety to it that in other words, when you talked about he stopped going snowboarding and, you made this concession, that concession, that's stagnation. That's what that
Absolutely.
is. That stagnation in the universe doesn't work on that. People say, well, you create out of chaos, and I'm a big believer because that's the way I operate. But by the same token, what is chaos? Is chaos
Movement.
stagnation? Yeah, chaos stagnation. If you're both walking on eggshells, that's chaos. I'd rather have
Yeah, true.
crazy chaos in a cluttered room and a cluttered table that I work with and
Yep.
disorganization with, than to have that. So,
Yeah.
so that's number one, is you start to realize it has nothing to do with, just like everything else on this trip has nothing to do, and this is weird because you're a couple, right?
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with anything outside of myself. What this is the closest mirror of me because it's all a mirror of me.
It
But
is.
this is not just pretty words. This is
Well, it's
the
my
heart,
favorite mirror.
right. It's the hardest core, the hardest core. Yeah, because when I think about my feminine, like me,
Yeah.
I know what I'm looking at because evidently, somehow or another, mutualistically or not, I produced it.
Yeah.
So I'm talking
Yeah.
about from head to toe, physically, emotionally,
Yeah.
mentally. And I think that's another thing that happens too. And your story's great because I know it. And for those of you who don't know it, you might want to check out one of her shows or the first show she ever did with me. If you just queried it on YouTube with her name, probably I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So in her story, she goes through these traumatic physical episodes, and he's with her the whole way.
Yeah.
And not only that, but she's getting these, like the feminine part of us does, getting in these information. No, we need to go do this and we need to go do that. Well, wait a minute. We just lost our farm. You just went through this. You're not even healthy. Da 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 da.
Yep.
And so I think it's starting to show itself. And so 2 things happen. One is you start to walk this path without the judgment, prejudice, and biases that have been projected on the other half of you,
Hmm.
which means that you accept every part of them. And it's not just words. You accept the idiosyncrasies, you accept the mental, the emotional, all of it. All of it. Not only do you accept it, but you fucking love it. And it's
Yeah.
not, again,
Yeah.
it's not something you fake.
No, because you can't.
You know what I
You
mean? So
can't.
I think it's like, this is January the 7th, okay? And this, but I mean, I'm saying this information, it's not so much information as it is what you guys have done and what others are doing. It doesn't matter, and although I think it's very important to talk about these things because just hearing them or being exposed to them actually opens up the code and the memories within anyone, potentially who's you know, looking at it. But you could be doing this in a cave and having these revelations and staying up all night talking like two teenagers, getting 2 hours sleep and going snorkeling and running into a ray with no tell and not tell anybody. And you're fucking anchoring the point of this whole conversation that
Yeah.
you, I, her, him, and no one else on this earth can put their arms around. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Nobody. Because if that were so, and I don't care if it's the most popular known light worker couple, whatever the case is, they'd both be walking on water right now.
Yeah.
And this is where we're headed. You know, we're headed to a place where the energy speaks for itself. And I just want to say the last thing again is, you know, big props for, you know, delivering the message that this is work. This is the same work that we've done as individuals through our dark nights of the soul on steroids.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Because when you're by yourself, you have one council here. You've got 12 streams going on, you know, and
Hmm.
you're juggling this and you're juggling that. Could be kids, it could be, you know, with this, you have 144 streams. Now you've got two direct lines to source that actually meet, okay, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so it becomes, you know, people talk about forgiveness, you know, you talk about, you know, alleviating shame and guilt and programs. And I mean, you're doing this with somebody else. And the reality is, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but when it comes down to it, at least in part, in significant part, they know you better than you know yourself. And yet you know them better than they know themselves. But you can't go and put that on the table anymore. It just kind of has to naturally unfold. And it is based on what I would say from the human level, the heart,
Yeah.
and from the soul level, the soul, you know,
Yeah.
the mother, whatever you want to call it. And that's the part, that's the thread that's in everything. And that's what they keep coming back to, keep
But you
coming
know
back
what's
to.
so wild is, I can say that it was the 11th hour, 59th minute, right? And yet it wasn't. And the reason why is in August, we started dancing. We started going to like EDM shows and dancing, and oh God, they're so much fun. And that brought life in. After we got back from France, he is actively, we're calling it the temple, but he's building me an area in the yard. Because he's my builder, he's my construction guy, and to where I can hold ceremony. So whether it's cacao or fire ceremonies, and he is actively, I mean, he's taken things down and now he's building things up. And so simultaneously, we've been creating these next steps, right? But it was our human, maybe it's our ego that hadn't quite caught up. It was like, I really feel like, yes, it was the 11th hour, 59th minute, but it was like our souls were like, these two idiots are figure it out eventually. And so let's also plan these forward movements, right? Of things that they both need. And when I think about the areas he is building for me, there's no greater example of our love. It's like he becomes this foundation for me to express myself through. And so when I was in that, the Rio on Frio cave and the Rio on pools, and I was looking at the water over the rocks and what it creates and how there still needs to be that masculine structure, right? It's needed, whether it's internal within me or my mirror, right? But one of the things I was saying was like this guy, he just blows me away because he flipped the script so fast from absolute despair to absolute excitement. And I just looked at him and I'm like, you're a fucking ascended master and you don't even know it. And I'm like, so you're worried about you can't keep up with me? And I'm like, but you already are. it's not the spiritual language,
Yeah.
right? But he already is. And if anything, he takes my ass from up in the astral and or not up in the astral, but up in the higher realms, and he grounds me in.
Mm.
And so it's such an interesting thing. And I told him, I was like, you're probably this ascended master, and you're like here playing human so I can move through this thing. And I told a friend that, and he was like, you both are, you idiot.
Yeah, it's right. And yes, and that's I think another big pill to swallow. It's the chicken and the egg.
Mhm.
When you said he shifted like that, well, but
I
but
still would have been stuck in it.
but yeah, but in order for that to happen, again, it's a chicken and the egg. It's a
Yeah,
simultaneous, energetic reaction. You know what I mean? It's like as within, without. What happens first?
yeah,
Well, I don't understand that math, and I don't need to. I just know they
yeah,
happen close enough. They seem like they happen at the same time. So it's a chicken and the egg. You
yeah, yeah.
know, she used to say it to me all the time. Like I've told this story 1,000 times, but I will have a day like this, an energetic experience, and people don't understand. You do two or three of these, it wears you out. And I'll walk outside, and then my soul comes in and says, "Look around." I had the cat episodes last night. I mean, this different things happen. I mean, this is you. This is you. And is it the chicken or the egg? Is it me? And is that why I can see differently now? Or did it change and I came out and it doesn't matter. But
It doesn't
I do
matter.
think that's a big I think that's something that will become more obvious. I feel that, including like this year, I believe we'll see it. I believe we're already starting to see it. But where you have individual souls that are, energetically illuminated as these new properties of the, let's just say, the new Earth returns or whatever, and our ability to see what we see in the visible light spectrum grows metaphorically and literally. At the same time, these couples, I believe, will be seen. And the stories may not have to be told intricately, but they are paradigm breakers. They
Yeah,
don't make sense.
yeah,
You don't have to have a ring on your finger. You don't
yeah,
have to have a marriage certificate. You don't have to live together, right? You don't have to understand everything. It's not this. It's not even like this the type of binding contractual template that comes like, oh, we're always going to be. It's not like that. It's like you are because you don't have to say that you are,
hmm,
right? It just is. And how in the hell are you going to try to explain it to anybody when you're being brought up to the latest cutting edge intel and wisdom in the
yeah.
very moment you're having a conversation with your sister? Right?
I know.
You know what I mean? So
It's
it's,
so much.
yeah, it's but now, like, this has been the bulk of an hour and a half, right?
Oh, holy cow.
But here's the thing. In your story, there's always multiple meanings and multiple purposes. I was told this a long time ago. I've seen it a million times. And as the multidimensional streams start to show themselves, you can see it. So in your story, it's not just a couple here. It's a woman, a priestess, who is at this leg of incarnation, at this coffee break, and many incarnations on planet, off planet. It's about this man in form, ditto. Okay, this high priest, this ascended master who's been
Yeah,
everything from a rock to this to that,
yeah,
both having these personal epiphanies, bringing the information together, walking through the fire. And then you have the element of the ancient coming back online. You've got beliefs, you've got caves, you've got holy spiritual power spots, you've got timings, you've got connections to France and other things. This is weaving, this is grid work, this is all of the above.
yeah,
And that's but at the root of it, the human, and you started this whole thing with choices. The human makes the choice. And I think that's the most powerful thing
yeah.
that I've pulled away and I speak for myself, has been this is my choice. I don't give a shit if I'm living in Mexico, unbeknownst to me, arranged by my soul. Like you said, the soul's going, hey, man, they're going to figure it out sooner or later. I didn't know I was going to be here, you
Yeah.
know? I wouldn't even have, you know? And I don't care. I still make this choice. This
Yeah.
is my choice. And I don't need to explain this to anybody. I don't give a shit what they think, what program they think I'm on, what program I think I'm on. This is my choice.
And you
And
own it.
yes, well, I mean, yes. And I think we've been hesitant, and I'm not speaking about me or me and her or you. I think, in that collective individual, okay, the fractals that we are, we've been apprehensive, we've been tentative to really speak our truth. And that what is the truth? What is the truth? Is it Buddha? Is it no, no, no. It's this truth that the human voice becomes part of the multidimensional voice
Yes.
and carries the code because the rest of it we had coming in and
Yes.
says, this is what I learned. And what have I learned? This is how I feel. That's all I know. This is how I feel. It makes me feel good. It makes tingles go all up my body. When I think about this part of me, this person in physical form, it just lights me up and I can't explain it. And I've
Yeah.
showed my ass trying to do it, and I've shown my heart trying to do it. I've made a fool of myself and I've made a hero of myself. I've done it all, but this is all of us. This is what we do. And I think this is the information. This is beyond authenticity. It's transparency, and this is where the gold is coming from, in my opinion, in my experience. And it's very raw and it's very human, yet it is divine. And it turns on the rest of click, 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 click. And you start to have experiences with the ray with no tail, and you're in a cave and you're walking over here, and a cat walks up to you and starts talking to you. It lights everything up, and at the core of it is this individual who is connecting to a physical mirror of itself,
Mhm.
regardless of the level of resistance, regardless of the level of external projection, and regardless of the wisdom, the pace of the wisdom coming in and being applied, because we are stubborn and we are
Yeah.
rebels,
Yeah.
right? So it's a profound discussion. I had no idea we were going to be going like this.
I did. I cleared my afternoon. But I'm everything now is about be here now, be in your lower chakras. This is all great, but we're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to shift until we anchor it in through these lower chakras. And these lower chakras is where we've got the traumas, we've got the childhood stuff, we've got all the misunderstandings and the stories that could blow up a good relationship. And so it's going to be interesting. The more we embody and the more we're like, no, I'm here and I'm going to live it, whether I'm living it in my messy chaos, like you should see my desk, or I'm going to live it, oh, it's supposed to be this way. But no matter how I do it, if I can do it from that space of absolute and complete authenticity, it's gonna work out. But I think I can't tell you how many clients I have where women are like, well, I'm with this person, but he's not spiritual. And I'm like, does he treat you good? Are you happy? Is this somebody who's going to hold you if you're cracking apart? Is this somebody who, if you're sick, is going to be right there? It doesn't matter if they get the spiritual shit. None of it matters. It's all just words. And I look at how many women blow up their relationships because they have this idea of a spiritual man. But a spiritual man is the man that stands by you in your spirituality, and vice versa. I am seeing some where the men are kind of going, my wife is really, she's not awakening, she's not doing this. And I'm like, why are we putting requirements on people on, yes, there are relationships to where there's such deep negativity that it's just drowning the person, and they need to extricate themselves, because usually there's some sort of karmic thing going on, and like part of their thing is to be able to speak out and step up, move out, and then it ends that cycle. But there are plenty of relationships out there that are being held to a standard that is an illusion. And I wouldn't have said to you that I had gotten wrapped up in that. I did. And so did he. So did he. And it was the most amazing conversations, because it was very much like, that's on me. Both of us, we could point things out. That's on me. I made that choice. I chose to go this route so that you could be right by my side instead of doing the route that would have lit me up. That's not on him. It's all on me. And he was able to say, yeah, I stopped doing, and that's on me. And the moment you take that radical responsibility for your choices, good, bad, ugly, and different, is the moment that you shift it. And it opens this humongous doorway.
Yeah, yeah, because okay, we know if you go back just whatever, 100, oh, shit. I mean, the recent history, centuries even. There's so many examples of the feminine supporting the masculine. He goes to work, he goes to war, blah blah blah, and so you would have less. It was not. It's very rare to see it the other way.
Yes.
Years ago in the 80s, I watched a movie, and I was already reading like metaphysical and stuff, but it was a very, like for a lot of us, a very solitary world, right? Even though I was in a marriage and I didn't, it was just me and the universe. So of all the movies, I ended up watching this movie, Still Magnolias. Have you ever seen this movie?
Mm-hmm.
It's got Dolly Parton, Julia Roberts, and a bunch of Shirley MacLaine. They look like two pigs in a blanket. They're talking about the two fat people that were dancing. But there's a character in the movie, because the ladies are the focus of the movie. It was a very much one of those types of movies, and it was very powerful because one of them dies and all this. And so Sam Shepard is in the movie, and I've always loved him. And he is Dolly Parton's husband. Okay. And they live in this little cute little cottage out in the country, and then she'll go run off and do all her adventures with her girlfriends, and they're having all this wild roller coaster ride, and she'll come home and he'll be standing there with a coffee and a cigarette. Just and it made such an impression on me, because that's what you're describing.
Yeah.
You're and because we've only seen it delivered one way, just like the mother has to be introduced and had to be introduced and be anchored back onto this grid, so to speak,
Mm.
in order for those elements to come back out in us. Well, the same works in the inverse,
Yeah.
right? Now, this is the man I'm describing. This is by standards, a soft man, an allowing man, a balanced man, but he's also a powerful, strong man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and a pillar in that movie. He
Yeah.
doesn't make a lot of appearances, but if you go to the funeral scene, he's right there. If you
Yeah.
go when she comes home and she's distraught because her friend's dying, he's right there. So I think that's part of it, because you're right. I mean, I get a bit frustrated. I look at a lot of material because I look for people to have engaging conversations. I admire, I admire the feminine spirit. I work for the mother, and it still frustrates me now as I start to see the masculine start to break out, particularly the last couple of months of the year, right? And right up to those 3 days of dark, that whole thing, right? And I see these posts and expressions put out, and I understand generations and stuff like that. But I guess the way I would put this, I'm not throwing shade on anybody, because I think the intention is what matters. It's a blossoming feminine spirit, typically younger, that is tapping into her goddess, her priestess, and so on, and getting the information and starting to understand how this or what this is eternal marriage or this sacred union. but you can't throw shit on the other half of you in pursuit of that union, because this is what we're finding out. And this is, to me, where the rubber meets the road with these relationships. I've said this for myself for years. It's the triggers, it's the mirror. No matter what it seems like, no matter how much I can validate or prove otherwise, the reality is that's me. Now, do I have a choice in that? Apparently I do. Sometimes it's proven that I don't. Because you know, you wipe the slate clean, you wake up the next morning, go out the door, and it's still there. Okay, wait a minute.
Did
But
feel,
yeah,
hang on. I did feel if I had chosen to walk away, I could feel a wall and it was getting ready to come down. And I think that wall would have made it so that it would have been there, but I would have been blind to it.
and
You
pick
know what
up
I
where,
mean?
and yeah, absolutely, and pick up in the next one where you left off. Because how can you have this level of intricate connection throughout multiple timelines and dimensions? First of all, how can you do that and not have any karma? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's a big part of this type of thing in this contemporary age, is this they have the capacity as a mutually interacting energy, which is really a one energy that looks like two. They have the capacity to work that shit out, okay, and to follow the high, you might say, the higher guidance, and not to fall prey to the lower stuff. And believe me, just to restate, there has been a tremendous amount of interference,
Yes.
a tremendous amount of interference, which has been part of the evolution, and I think part of the reason. And I don't know that we're the only ones like that, or I'm the only one like that, because it was really my decision for myself to pull in the ranks and keep it private. Like the day may come when the turtle sticks its head out the shell again, but for right now, just build and build. Stay quiet. Just keep building, building, building. But I got off on a tangent. But I just feel like that uh, these things, these energetic, catalytic moments, be they personal, be they with a couple, be they with a country, a world, whatever, knowing there's another side to it is the whole point.
Hmm.
It's no different than having a situation and then getting carried away with the superficial and saying, "Oh my God, they just um, whatever the government did or whatever my partner did, or whatever," and you're stuck on the story
Hmm.
and you miss the fact that, hey, there's another side to this. This is the point of it all, and starting to understand in the present moment that, hey, wait a minute, we might have to take a little break here, take a breath. I need to go walk on the beach or whatever the case is, because there is something coming through. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big difference I've noticed toward the end of the year. And I feel like that's something that's an indicator for all of us as we move forward. In particular, the weirdos like us, and I say that in the highest reverence, because toward the end of the year, there was a lot of talk on this show, especially around the solstice, when all these sisters came on in this cluster that just happened organically, and that was, we're being put to work now. And the core of that service will be in our ability to stand tall and stable in our field with what we know. Because maybe the way it's worded is, a lot of distortion is going to be popping up or shown to the world, and we've already seen it, you know. So
No, I agree. And I did have a period towards the end of the year before the 3 days that I really went deeply into what are we doing? What is this for? And I didn't mean the relationship. I meant everything. And it was this really almost like a hopeless came in, and I was able to shift it and work with it. And but I kept saying, what is this? What? And it feels like, I don't know, to me, when I feel into 2026, it feels beyond intense. It feels very chaotic. Um, because people are not, people aren't ready to let the story go. And they're still wanting, whether it's revenge or the eye for an eye or instead of going, you know what? I've been a horrible human being. I've been a good human being. I've been it all, and I'm really ready to walk this way. I don't need to stay here and shine a light on this shit anymore. I already know it exists. I don't, in me, and it's just personally with me, I don't need to anymore. And it's, nope, I want to go this way. But there's so much of humanity that still really wants to be in that. It still wants to not walk in that space of radical responsibility. They're not willing to accept that they're manifestors and that they're creating in each moment, right? So it's going to take, like, I think it was Milton Foster sent me something, and it was this guy was road raging and being all nasty, and this moose, it was in Canada, and this moose just comes out and knocks the guy off the motorcycle. And I'm like, that's the energy of 2026. It's going to be fast, right? Whatever you're creating, you're going to get back fast, and there's not going to be that delay, so that, if the moose had knocked him 3 weeks later, there's no correlation, right? And he still may not have made the correlation, but maybe the next couple times he road rages and a moose gets him or something gets him, maybe he'll make the correlation. But that's what it is now. It's like what I put out there, I'm getting back fast, and it's, good, bad, or indifferent. Like, and it always reminds me of sometimes, I mean, Danny and we're kids. We're truly kids. And so he was in the shower, and there was like the shower curtain instead of like a glass. And so I snuck around, and you know how like it's all wet and kind of clammy and cold. So I wrapped it around him, right? And the damn pole comes down and hits me on top of the head. That's the instant karma now, right? It's like it's coming back. And I mean, it was the funniest thing, and it was all in jest, but that's what it is now. And so instead of going wherever we're blaming, wherever we're projecting, we got to pull it back now. We have to. We've got to see this stuff as a mirror in order to shift this. And so wherever we're not, it just feels outerly like it's going to be chaotic.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Like you said, good, bad, or indifferent, and it's the thoughts.
Mhm.
Look, you've been there. I've been there. You're in your head, like she thinks this, and she doesn't see
Mhm.
this, and he doesn't. And that was the fly in the ointment, right? That's died. Those voices have died. The loops have died. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The intelligence of intuition, telepathy, or coming in, whatever you want to call it. The other thing I want to say about what you're saying, yeah, you brought up well the original email with the two choices, and oh, now there's a third one. Okay,
Mhm.
as I'm listening to your last story, it's the same thing for everything and everyone, because one, I can stay where I'm at to accommodate the energies that I'm in, and I'm going to concede certain aspects of me and put my dreams off till tomorrow. Or I can say, because what am I doing? I'm putting the onus of responsibility and
On
blame
something else.
on the right. Or I can say, which I see falling, I've been seeing falling for a long time. And don't get me wrong, boundaries are important for the growth and evolution, but they're
Mhm.
not going to remain forever, because
No.
that's not the way it works. So I can say, I'm leaving here because this place is holding me back.
Mhm.
Right. Well, now I just put up that wall that's going to fall on my head either in this incarnation or the other one, or one down the road, like you were talking about. But the third one is, I'm going to see this field for what it is to my best of my ability, accept that it's all me. If I go, it's still with me.
Mhm.
And where I go is me too, which means they're the same thing. So it becomes that third choice, is what I'm saying. The third choice becomes that radical responsibility which is basically uh, neutralizing the field because there's nothing left to forgive because you've taken ownership of everything and nobody's done anything or nothing's done anything, including the government, taxation, fuckery, whatever you want to call it.
Totally.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Totally.
it's all me, right? So, you know, what an amazing conversation.
Well, one of the other things that really came in was the story is, and it's truth because I did this. I was shrinking myself for Danny to be able to keep up. Okay. There is that story. And now that those walls are down, I had to sit with, are you sure you just didn't make him the scapegoat because you were scared to expand?
That's what I said earlier when you said, "Where did this get twisted?" I thought, "Oh shit, I mean, you said that so early in the show, we could have just ended right there, but because that's the whole thing. It's a flip. It's a
Yeah.
flip. Look, if everything outside of me is me, I used to write this in the early days, like 2012, 13, that the universe is my twin flame. The
Yeah.
universe is, if you look at it, it is. If this is accurate, which it seems like everything's leading that way, this is all me. Everything's speaking to me, just like the moose knocking the guy off the motorcycle. And that's the thing that's starting to happen because those elements of original creative patterns are coming into play. And we've all been in dimension and said, I need a gun because there's two reptilians outside. Boom, there it is. And, we instantly manifest in our dreams, in our dimension.
Yeah.
So, so this is the kind of thing I think that maybe there's been a delay. Maybe there's been, there was a period people talked about 2012 to 2017 where there was kind of a suspended animation because we weren't prepared in 2012 to do what we had to do. We need some time to adjust, and that is to really understand that I know it sounds corny, but we're creating all this, and you come into that understanding of there's all this fuckery and all this stuff that's not been disclosed, and then you start to say, well, I can't feed that monster, and then you start to go, wait a minute, I'm not focusing on it anymore, but I'm running on these patterns where I'm reacting in a second nature response. It really isn't natural. It just became part of my makeup, and now we get to this third part. And I think this is where your story started, and that is ultimately, hey, let's compare notes. Wait, why have we got this path where we come from that's millennia, and we're always there. We're weaving in it, but we're always there. And now here we are at this apex point, and what? I choose you. I choose us. I choose me, but
Yeah.
me is you and us, and here we go. Right? It's a
Right.
whole different ball game, and everything starts to have this connectivity. Last thing, I haven't been talking to anybody. I hadn't
Me
talked to.
neither.
I talked to. I was telling my mom last night because this happened to me yesterday. Other than my partner, if I'm not doing something online, I'm not talking to people.
Yeah.
It's like 5 times in 5 months, maybe something like that. And yesterday, I hadn't spoken to one of my daughters in quite a few months, and she hits me up, right? And then that turns into my mother. Something happened. I hadn't talked to her since October the 6th. And then another daughter, right? And her boyfriend. My point is that regardless of the span of separation, okay, there was no misgivings, there was no bad blood, there was nothing but this. And again, is it them or is it me? Now, had I remained in the previous cycles of obligation, okay, and depletion, I
Mhm.
got to call my mom every week. I got to call my mom. My soul came and said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't talk to these people right now. I can't. It's nothing personal. I just can't talk
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
But that eventually extrapolates to an experience, and everything happens in threes. And I have these 3 phone calls out of the blue last night. And so I feel like this is how it works now. It's not like the old days where, okay, go finish high school, go to college, learn a trade, get on this career path, and when you hit 65, you retire and you can start going to Belize. And no, it's more like this. We apply these things and we have these daily, present moment, real, authentic, more and more transparent experiences with mirrors in our lives. And they start with that other, that other half of your physicality, or that's in your physicality. So it's a very, to me, it's like, again, it's like one of those things that we used to have as kids, where you would draw on them and then you would pull the
The Etch a
page up.
Sketch.
That's a sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like we have this experience. We've had this experience, this incredible experience for 2 hours today. You
Mhm.
know, it'll be with me all day. I'm sure
Mhm.
her and I'll talk about it. I'm sure it'll, in my communion at the beach tonight. But tomorrow I'll wake up and it's etch a sketched.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
still there. It's still there,
Yeah.
like everything. And it's just some of the things that we've experienced, we, resisted and pushed away and divorced ourselves from. Everything's coming back. The chickens are coming home to roost.
They
And,
are.
and it's okay. It's okay. So you're incredible. I love
I love
talking.
you too.
Yeah, I just really appreciate your bravery, your willingness to be open. I'm excited to see you and Alicia doing work together.
He's so neat.
Yeah, it is. And, I just love the way that all the pieces are coming together. I've really enjoyed working with particularly, there's been a lot of sisters come on in the last month, a couple of dudes, and I enjoyed that too. But I can really feel the physical manifestation of, let's just say, the mother's voice finally coming out to a point where it's really being heard. And,
Mhm.
uh, and that's exciting. That's
Yeah.
exciting, and I'm glad to be part of it. So, but yeah, best to you and Dan and to your beautiful, lovely family,
Yeah. Thank
and I
you.
look forward to working with you, collaborating again. I'm always open and willing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate this, and I, sh I see power in vulnerability and being real, and the masks are down. People think they have their masks up, but you can see through them now.
Hmm.
So why not just be real and own it?
Yeah, yeah. Choose it.
Choose
Choose
it.
choose yourself. Choose. I don't know. I mean, it's a whole new language. It's a whole new everything.
It
We
is.
we did yesterday was particularly particularly high energy. Um, I think if we go back to the day before, I know it's kind of hard because she's in the southern hemisphere, I'm in the northern hemisphere, but I would say it was 36 hours ago. She hit me up. She goes, "I'm feeling a session." I'm like, "Okay." So I just happened to be up at 5 in the morning or whatever it was, 4 in the morning. So we do this session. Well, the previous 12 hours, it had been like, are you having these days? You ever had these days where your sleep patterns aren't normal? You get up, you're like walking in dimension, like you're here in a very dense way, but you're also somewhere else, right? It's just
Absolutely.
these days. Then we have the session, and it's now like I don't know what it was. It was 4 o'clock in the morning or something. I thought I'm gonna go back to sleep for a while. In the session, all this wild new sacred geometry she pulled through, and lights and stuff. And I'm right there, man. It was all so visual. But I think this is what's happening. Like these other things that the feminine side of us, particularly showing up in the females, that they've been tapped into, the intuition, these colors, these geometries, these connections, and whatever, are starting to really anchor in and to
They are.
become part of our physical experience. These are the things that we were told weren't real. These were the things we were told were imagination,
Mm.
right? The guys had them too. I was told when I was a kid, that's not real, and I think that's what's happening, and that's going to be an interesting contrast because I feel like the rest of it, like if I just look at the podcast neighborhood, right? Because I
Mm.
keep an eye on a lot of different things, male dominated, patriarchal type of conversational, rational,
Mhm.
substantiating things, proving things like you were talking about, the need
Mhm.
to be right. Oh, well, I
Yeah.
knew I was right about Trump. I knew I was right about this or that. None of them are right.
No.
None of 'em. So, but I think that'll happen too, where those voices will start to, and they already have the concentration of, if you look at, say, Lisa Renee, or you look at Sandra Walter, or so many other women, they may not have Joe Rogan numbers,
Hmm.
okay, but they have a concentrated, engaged audience,
Yep.
and that's real. Like that's the authentic and the transparent you're talking about. So I'm anxious to see that happen,
Yeah, me
and
too.
I know it will be.
Yeah.
Well, I will let you go. I'm going to have to go uh, take all this in and breathe. It's been an extraordinary experience. It's been a session, and thank you for leading us through it. Thank you for
Thank you.
initiating. Thank you for initiating this and being so open.
Yeah.
And
No,
to
I mean, once we saw our way through, I knew I had to message you because I mean, it was like instantaneous. It was like, this is going to make a lot of sense. It's
mm,
going to make a lot of sense to Todd. It's going to make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And I loved how you changed it from being the relationship three choices to
mm,
the collective three choices. And you're spot on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, only because you know, I mean, I'm not spot on. I just happened to pull that part of it through, but it was through the conversation that I realized it. And at the end, when you were giving that example, because it is the truth.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's like this whole thing about, you know, like you see, this is frustrating too. You go onto the news feed and you see light workers, star seeds, talking about Democrats are shit, Republicans are shit.
Yep.
Hey man, but the days of having to point that out, the days of having to be right, have turned into the days of, you know what, I know my truth, and I'm just going to keep this to myself. And I think that's
Yeah.
a big part of this inversion re realigning, is as the feminine was, let's just say in metaphoric terms, the feminine voice was suppressed, right? The masculine apparently filled the void with its voice, and now that voice dies down and becomes this noble, kingly, priestly
Yes.
uh, wisdom that walks softly but carries a big fucking stick. Like, don't mess with my wife or don't mess with my daughter, you know?
Exactly. I see it as the masculine is becoming
Mm,
the temple that I can move and flow in and
mm.
be in. And I mean that internally,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there's the external, but internally, and it's like I'm having to embrace routine and discipline and stop being such a rebellious little shit with myself, right? Like, come on.
Well, don't take anything away. That's what served. Believe me, that's the whole thing. Is like, if you can look, for me anyway, it's been extraordinary, and it's a bit humorous, but I mean that in a very wise way. Look, I've got four daughters. I was raising two preteens and early teens in the early part of my awakening as a single parent.
Yeah.
And so to understand that, to allow the feminine to, you know, trying to control the feminine is trying to control the fucking universe. It's there's an element of mystery, intrigue, and unknown that is essential to further expansion. So you
Yep.
can't put a cap on it. It's like trying to cap lightning. You know what I mean? And then the other thing about that is when that is allowed to flow without judgment, whatever that form may be, it then creates that space to build within. Because, you know, you said the masculine is like, I feel it within myself. Well, yeah, but the body is still her. The
Mm.
infrastructure inside at the present moment is created by him, right? And then she flows through, and then boom, it all starts over again. So
Yeah.
it's extraordinary. But yeah, we could talk all day, but I think
I
I'm gonna
know.
pass out
I
now.
know.
But thank you for holding space for me as well, and I'll see you
Yeah.
soon. I'll see you
Yeah.
soon. Okay, you take
And thank
care.
you for anybody who's made it through this long video.
Mm. All right,
There's a
take care.
lot of nuggets in it.
Yeah, we'll
All
see you
right.
later. Take care, Jen. All right, bye bye.